All right. What's the best restraint to use in a self-defense situation?
Choke.
Choke. Oh, this guy's a genius. So you can use multiple different restraining techniques, obviously in different circumstances, situations. We've covered arm bars, and we found that those aren't always the most efficient in most situations, but they can be applied. Again, you just have to be understanding that it may not always work. Chokes, on the other hand, is a great restraint to use in self-defense situations because no matter how big you are, no matter how strong you are, everybody can get choked out. So when you are applying chokes in situations to control somebody, in my opinion, you need to utilize a choke that it still allows you to get out of the situation safely, just in case something else were to come up, another attacker comes at you, a weapon gets involved. You should be able to abandon the choke with ease, but you should also be able to utilize a choke that puts a lot of pressure on this person. And again, if you are using chokes in these situations, you should use those chokes with the purpose of, I'm gonna put you to sleep. Not necessarily just hold on to you and crank your neck or crank your head, but I'm putting you in a choke, I'm gonna put you to sleep, fight's over. And that's kind of where we're going to focus with this. Now, there's 3 chokes that I use. 2 of them are going to kind of focus more on the back. 1 of them is going to focus more on the front. And the reason we kind of focus on the front a little bit is obviously most encounters are going to start with you facing your attacker. But the nice thing with this one, and it's going to be the guillotine, is most of the time attackers aren't trained fighters for the most part. So they're going to put themselves in a position that allows me to easily guillotine this person without really having to set it up. Now, what I mean by setting up a guillotine, if we're in a clinch type situation, one of the best ways to set up a guillotine, especially if I already have a collar tie, is to simply press this head down. And as I press this down, my other hand scoops in under the neck. Now I can lock my hands on the other side from here. I can start hipping into the person, start cranking down on my shoulder and elbow, and I start ripping up on the choke, and we get the guillotine choke from there. So that's a good way to set it up if we are in a clinch position. Now, again, I mentioned that a lot of times these people aren't experienced, which means that they're going to put their head in a position that allows me to easily set up the guillotine without really having to do much extra work. So in this instance, let's say again we're in a clinch situation and this person decides to suddenly go for a tackle or a takedown, and he comes rushing in. Now, because in this situation he's inexperienced and he's just bulldozing his head and his body into me, I can easily just slip this guillotine in here, again, rip on it, and I can start cranking and I can get the choke off from there. But even better is, because of this type of choke, even if he were to take me down, go ahead, he continues blowing through, oh, we end up on the ground, even from this position, because I was able to hook the head. If I manage to get my legs wrapped around in a closed guard, yes, and this is the best case scenario for me, I have the guillotine, I can stretch him out a little bit and I can choke it up. Even if I have one leg down, as long as I can get this leg over to keep him from hopping to the other side, I can still finish a guillotine. If he manages to get past my leg and he continues going on that side, I can easily toss him over the top and we can either feed into other chokes, or I can come all the way around on top into a mount position and still manage to finish the guillotine. So it allows me an opportunity to set up and finish a guillotine in multiple different positions because, again, this guy's inexperienced. They're shoving their head into my chest, my stomach area. It's an easy setup for me. And again, for the most part with the guillotines, it's either going to be me having to snap this person's head down and catch the guillotine, or it's going to be as a result of him just putting his head into position. Again, whether he's going for a tackle, even if he gets like a single leg on me, even if he puts his head across this way, I can still work a guillotine. And if anything, one thing that's nice about the guillotine, instead of necessarily finishing it from there, is either you're going to put this person to sleep, which again for self-defense is going to work in your favor, or on the second thought, if this person's really trying to push me down and tackle me and he's got my leg locked and I start really locking up this guillotine, he may completely abandon everything to start defending the choke. And as he defends the choke, I can now instantly let go and start working towards a more dominant position and regain control of that. So for me, the guillotine is not always necessarily the best one to finish a person off of in these situations, but it's a good way to completely stop this person dead in their tracks from what they're trying to do. And then I take advantage of that stoppage and work to a better situation. The 2 chokes that I focus on from the back, slight different variations. You have your standard rear naked choke for those that are inexperienced. You shoot the arm across, you lock on your elbow. I can press either the back of my palm or the back of my hand to the back of their head. I tuck ear to ear so we can listen to each other's mind, and I can simply just start squeezing on this end. Now, if you've seen variations from different jiu-jitsu guys, I know Don Herr's a real big fan of the single hand choke, or even when he does the rear naked, he likes to tuck his hand behind the person's shoulder and drape the triangle aspect over the top of it rather than locking onto your arm. This way it protects his hand, but even if this person's able to break off this top hand, I'm still able to get it finished with a single arm choke here. But again, we're not here to teach the chokes per se, we're just kind of talking about chokes as a whole when it comes to self-defense. So with this choke in this instance, this one, again, I can squeeze and you can get it tight very quickly, But as I mentioned, you want to make sure that you're in a position where I can safely control this person, but I can also safely abandon the choke if something else were to come up. So in this situation, I have full control of his back. He's not going to be as worried about trying to necessarily hit me or strike me at this point, as he's more focused at this point of just trying to simply break away the grip. And even if he is trying to hit me, I'm at a position where I'm directly behind him. It's going to be very difficult for him to be able to get off a good hit. But let's say maybe he starts trying to reach for a weapon, or even worse, you know, in another circumstance, someone else starts running in to help him out and trying to attack me. I can easily abandon this, shove the person into it, and I can make that space right away. Then you can use your front kicks or whatever else you need to kind of keep that distance as much as you need to. Or if you're in a situation where you want to just take this person to the ground, I can continue to squeeze, and as I start working backwards, I can get them off balance a little bit and start dragging them to the ground. You can buckle their knees, rip them down to the ground from there. If this person really starts turning and they start working the way out of it, I can switch this easily to a guillotine. So again, that's another crucial part with these chokes, is they are able to feed into another. You can chain them together, which again, for self-defense is what you want to be able to have with your technique. So the third choke that I like to go over, simply just locking the hands in a Gable grip. As I come across, I lock my hands. The difference with this one and the one I like, the reason why I like this one so much, is I'm posting my forearm across their back, which helps me kind of press their hips forward a little bit, which in turn puts a little bit more pressure on the neck, and it also makes it a little bit more difficult for this person to fight back and try and get out of this choke. So as I have this Gable grip, again, I press my arm here. The other thing is as I'm squeezing, I'm also like ripping this arm back across their throat a little bit more, so it's putting a little bit more pressure on the windpipe, so you're getting a little bit of the wind choke as well as the blood choke. But again, I keep my ear-to-ear pressure, arm across the back, and again, I can squeeze, and as you can see, the choke still gets applied very quickly. So all these chokes, if you do them properly, you could probably put this person to sleep in 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. You know, give it a shot. Let us know what your best time is. But you have the ability to put this person to sleep very quickly. And even better, out of all 3 chokes, this is the easiest one to abandon if need be, because it's just a simple release. The triangle, your arms are intertwined like a pretzel, so I have to unfold my arms and then release from here. Where in this case, I already have a hand back here, so the second I let go, I can easily take that free hand and just shove them away again, create that space. One question that I know a lot of people are going to ask is, well, how do you apply these chokes with someone that's bigger than you? Now, in the guillotine perspective, size in that sense doesn't matter, because I'm either ripping the person's head pressure down and locking it up this way, or as I've mentioned, they're already driving their head down. It takes away the worry of trying to deal with this bigger person. He's taller than me. He's handing me his head, which is why the guillotine is such an easy setup from that point of view. Now, the difference with these ones is, yes, if this person is taller than me, I may have to come up on my tippy toes to get this choke in here. But if we're in a circumstance, I may pull down on the hair and slip the arm across. If I'm in a back situation like this, he's probably not going to be standing up too tall. He's going to be kind of hunkered down a little bit trying to fight this off, which allows me to feed the choke in here. But again, if he starts to stand up from this position, it might be a little bit difficult for me to actually get the finish. Again, especially if I'm, a little bit shorter, I'm not physically going to have the strength to do that. But if I bring him down to my level one of 2 ways, I can either buckle the knee a little bit and drop his hips back. I can actually just shove my hips into his hip and offset his hips a little bit and choke him out this way. And then again, we start working back down a little bit. All I'm looking to do is essentially just off balance his hips, get his hips away from his body a little bit more, which brings his head closer to my level, which does one of 2 things. One, it gives me obviously the ability to put a lot more power into the choke, but 2, because he's off balance, it makes it very difficult for this person to defend this choke. The best way for him to defend it is to posture up and essentially start doing a crunch. And as he starts crunching forward, he takes the pressure off of that throat and also starts pulling my arm down. My job as a choker is to stretch him out like a bow. And the more I stretch him out, one, again, it becomes harder for his body to fight back, but it puts a lot more pressure on the neck in that sense. So I'm not necessarily looking to keep him off balance like this the whole time. It's just once I get this off balance motion, now I can come back to face him and I can start coming back. I can easily also just come straight back down to the ground and finish the choke from here. If you needed to, and I had to take the person's back and start working from there in the chokes, you can do that as well, and I can easily just finish, again, any one of the variations of the choke from the ground position. Chokes is a great thing to utilize when it comes to self-defense, especially if you're dealing with a stronger, tougher opponent or someone that's really just trying to put a lot of pain on you, because again, no matter how tough this person is, everybody's going to go to sleep eventually when you put a choke on them. So try these out. Let us know what your best time is. We'll see you next time.